Hi everyone, Christine Lewis here. Welcome to session 5 of my truth study. Okay, I haven't posted anything for the last 3 weeks, I think it is, and there's been a reason for that, which is I feel over the last weeks what the Lord has done is to pull me aside to do a little bit of extended study in the Genesis narrative. Genesis chapter 3 and the first few verses there. And what I've been doing really is looking closely at the interplay between the serpent, the woman, the man, and really just asking the question, how did this thing happen? How was truth violated the way it was? It's kind of like the longer I stay in it, the more it's boggled my mind, how did this thing happen? And so, hopefully after these 3 weeks of really meditating on these things, I'm emerging hopefully with something of value that I can share with you. There is much detail over the next few weeks that I really want to share with you because I believe it will help you to recognize the devil in the detail of your life, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day, isn't it? Let's recognize the enemy and then boot him out, in Jesus' name. So last week then, I looked at Adam and his relationship with God before the woman came on the scene, and I did that really to understand a little better his part to play, in this whole debacle. I'm not sure how you say that word, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so I was looking at his part to play in it, and because most of the time, we blame the woman, for the most part, it's her. But the reality is he had a real big part to play in what went down. And so we had a little look at that, as much as you can in these 15-minute sessions anyway. This week I want to look at who the woman is. Next week we're going to look at who the serpent is. And then subsequently we're going to look at, as I say, the interplay and look at how this thing went down. So today I want to look at who the woman is. Who was this woman, for goodness sake? Who rebelliously picked this fruit off the tree, the forbidden fruit, and did what she did. So let's have a look at who she was, and over the next weeks we'll perhaps get to understand why she got to that point of exchanging the truth for a lie. Okay, then I've got 4 things that I want to share, that I want to say about this woman. And so here goes then. First thing, okay, she was the something missing. Okay. Not missing to God. God always knew where she was. She was in Adam. He always knew that. But in relation to the external created order, she was the missing piece. If we imagine, the created order of the universe like a jigsaw, and, in a way, it is like a jigsaw because the Bible does tell us that everything that is made in the created order is made in individual parts that are fused and held together by our lovely Jesus. So, in a way, it is a bit like a jigsaw, isn't it? So, let's imagine it then as this jigsaw. The universe, with its grandeur and complexity, is this big jigsaw puzzle. Genesis 2, verses 1 and 2 says this, that the heavens and the earth were finished and God rested. So, the big jigsaw puzzle was complete. But the last piece was missing. This was her. She was the last piece. The whole thing has been fused and put together, and there's this one little space. And that's her. Bless our lovely Jesus, eh? Everything, it just makes me titter, this does. Everything in God's heart for creation is manifest. Everything's out in the open, everything's in its place, everything's showing and shining the way it's meant to, except the woman. She's still hidden. She's the last one to show up. And you have to realise this being the case, everything's in place, except her. You have to imagine what kind of status or kudos this reality was giving to this woman. The whole of creation, the way I see it, the whole of creation, the angelic creation, the rest of the creation, they would have been waiting in great anticipation for this missing piece, imagine the moment when the Lord said concerning Adam, it is not good that man should be alone. I can imagine in that moment there was a great intake of breath. She's arriving. The peace, the last piece is arriving. She's on the scene. She's coming. And the sort of the great excitement, at her emergence, at the thought that this woman is about to emerge. Bless God. It's a bit like an artist, isn't it? Or a fashion designer, let's say, when they have these fashion shows and they parade all of their creations. And always they save the best till last. There is the unveiling, isn't there, of this final piece, the finale. And of course the audience are all in anticipation, just waiting for the final one to come out because they know it's going to be the best one. This was her. This was this woman. This is before she's even on the scene. She's valuable, she's vital, and she's highly anticipated. Without her, there's a not good in the earth. Without her, the image of God on the earth is incomplete. Bless Jesus. So she has an awful lot of importance even before she arrives. Secondly, then, she was the overwhelming desire of Adam's heart and the joy set before him. So much so, just the desire for her alone prompted and compelled the most noble of actions from this man. The woman could not emerge until Adam, her bridegroom, desired her. It was not enough that somebody externally told him, you need a partner, you need a good woman, Adam. That desire had to rise up from within him. And we know that when the Lord brought all the animals to him and so forth, one of the reasons was that in and through all of that, Adam would recognize that he needed a partner. And there was a point during that process that he got it and he desired her. Now, we don't know how long that process took. There are over 8 million different species of animals. So, it could well have been years, But whatever, she couldn't emerge until Adam had matured enough within himself as a son, until he had a degree of maturity out of which he would desire her. And the reason why he had to desire her was because her emergence would demand a specific submission and sacrifice from Adam. He had to submit to an unknown process that the Bible called a deep sleep. It says the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall on Adam. That's in Genesis 2:21. Deep sleep there means to stun or to stupefy. It means to remain long in sleep. It's actually describing like an induced coma. And so God, in the spirit of free will, I think would have talked it over with Adam, and Adam had to have submitted to this process if the woman was going to emerge. And what a wonderful parallel this is with Jesus. Jesus, understanding what the Father was asking of him, had to submit to the process, didn't he, of the deep sleep of death in order for his bride to emerge. And just as the first Adam had to trust God to awaken him when the bride was emerged, so Jesus had to trust the Father to raise him from the dead. Bless our lovely Jesus. And so there was sacrifice required as well. Adam had to be willing to sacrifice, his rib. He had to be willing to sacrifice that part of himself. He had to be willing and trust God. He had to be willing to be cut open, to shed his blood, to surrender that part of his internal being. And this was not a mystical operation. This was a proper operation. This was real flesh cut open, real flesh that bled, and real flesh that was closed up. 2:21 says he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh in its place. And the word flesh there literally means the meat. He closed up the meat of his flesh. So this was not a mystical thing that happened. This was a proper, real operation, and blood was shed for this woman. So Adam paid a hefty price for her. Not not only in the physical sacrifice, but actually in his willingness to have his own relationship with the Father put on hold, interrupted, so that she could come forth. You know, again, what a parallel with Jesus. You know, that Jesus was willing, wasn't he, to have his relationship with the Father interrupted so that we, as his bride, could come forth. So being his desire, this woman was costly. She was expensive. She was the epitome of the Proverbs 31 woman. And this is before she's even got here. Her worth was far above rubies, even before she arrived on planet Earth. Bless Jesus, she says. So thirdly then, she was her father's much loved and celebrated daughter. Reality is this: before she could ever become a wife, she had to be a daughter. Just as with Adam, before Adam could ever become the bridegroom, he had to become a son. And so with her, before she could become his queen, her husband's queen, she had to become her father's princess. And so whilst Adam was long in sleep, sleeping long, you know, she was growing and maturing as a daughter to the Father. Bless our lovely, beautiful Jesus. So it says in Genesis 2:22 and 23, the rib that he made into a woman, the rib he made into a woman, and he brought her to the man. Adam said, this is now bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. The word woman there means wife, betrothed one, bride, which tells us that when the Lord actually brought her to Adam, she was mature enough. She was in her time of love, as it says in Ezekiel. So she had a degree of maturity, just as Adam did, in order to be the bridegroom. So as a father's daughter then, she was thoroughly known, unconditionally loved. She was developed and matured in the truth of who she was and made ready to fulfill her future. Bless God, And fourthly, she was a wife, following on from the last one. Wow. Having been brought to Adam, she became his wife. And judging by Adam's reaction, she was instantly loved, and she was Adam's captivation. Song of Solomon 7:5 says, talking about the king, he says that he watched her, the girl, in absorbed admiration. This was Adam. He would have watched her in this absorbed admiration. Song of Solomon 4:9 says, this is the king speaking to the woman, to the girl, you have ravished my heart with one look of your eyes. A type of Jesus and the church, but still a type of Adam and his bride. So as the wife then, she found a place and belonging in life. She found where her piece of the jigsaw fit. When she was in the form of a rib, she was a side of Adam. When she was in the form of a woman, she stood at the side of Adam. She's now a part of a royal dynasty. She's the ruling, her and Adam are the ruling king and queen. They are the sovereign. They are the sovereigns of the earth, aren't they? Under the leadership, under the headship of Yahweh. Her life mirrors perfectly the Godhead. God, husband, self. And she's now positioned to be a part of an apostolic family unit. Positioned, made ready to bring what is a reality in heaven, i.e. sort of the unborn humanity, into the earth. Bless our lovely Jesus. So then, those are the four things. Time has gone. We've got a minute left. Conclusion then. This woman was not a naive youngster, an irresponsible bit of a kid who didn't have a clue, roaming the garden, smelling the roses. She wasn't just easy pickings for the enemy. No. She was a mature woman. She was a strong, mature woman. Sinless, pure, filled with the glory of God, of great worth, of great value, costly, expensive, her worth far above rubies. She was vital to humanity's future. Just her presence made good that which was not good. Just her presence completed the image of God in the earth. She was the anticipation of all of creation. She was a daughter, beloved daughter, known, loved, secure in the knowledge of that she was loved, rooted and grounded in the most powerful force in the universe, the love of God. She was developed in the truth of who she was, filled with destiny and future. As a wife, she was powerful. She was a powerful helper, a surrounder, a protector. She knew who and whose she was. She belonged. She was part of a royal dynasty, the part of the ruling monarchy. Her life mirrored the Godhead. She was positioned to reach into heaven and bring its reality to earth. She was an incredible woman. She was not easy pickings for the enemy, people. Oh, she says. And so, people, I've got to go because my time is gone. But next week we'll look at the serpent and we'll look at the interaction between the two of them in Jesus' name.